Everyone is welcome here, it's time to make new friends. Aquavide Uskava, fill your Glencairn. Share a dram with the spirit of Edmonton.
Slancha, like Opa, break a play. Good day, Whiskey brothers, sisters, and friends. Welcome to the Whiskey Book Club's 5th book of Season 3. We're here with author Daniel B. He's the author of this book right here. Well, if I can get it. How to Celebrate Burns Night, a modern and informal guide to celebrating Scotland's most famous poet, Robert Burns. Robbie Burns, right there with us. As always, I'm honored to have you, the viewer, with us here today. As a quick aside, I have to say there's other whiskey book clubs out there now, but none that dive so deeply into the subject with the author than we do right here. My name's Dolph. I'm the spirit of Edmonton on social media platforms. I'm the founder of the Whiskey Book Club, and I'm your host tonight. For those of you new to the Whiskey Book Club, I'll explain a little bit what we're about. We are a home base. We're a safe place for whiskey geeks that love to share a dram, which I should have in my hand, and share a passion for reading, usually about whiskey or whiskey-related activities like a Robbie Burns evening. This book, again, right there, it's our 16th book reviewed on the Whiskey Book Club, and it's Daniel's inaugural tome. He's also a communications advisor. He specializes in public relations, marketing, brand consultancy, has a wealth of knowledge, wealth of experience in the entertainment business in the States. I'm going to say Canada too, and the UK. So welcome, Daniel. How you doing?
I'm very well. My gosh, that's a beautiful introduction. I feel thank you for having me is basically the first line, and thank you very much. I'm looking forward to this. I'm sort of stepping into the unknown with you guys up there. So thank you very much.
Oh, it's a fun place to be right here. And what's in your dram tonight, kind sir? You said you're double fisting, so am I. So we're good.
Well, exactly. Well, I mean, I realize I'm doing a very ridiculous thing in Los Angeles here. I've got I'm double fisting with a coffee
That's okay.
and a dram. But it's that very weird thing that when I'm Scottish, people give me bottles of whiskey, and I'll be honest, I wasn't a big whiskey drinker until about 10 years ago. So It's later life, I'd like to say. But this is, of course, it says Scotland now. It was a sponsored glass by the Scottish government, which we're very proud of. I did a Burns night, and I was lucky enough for it to be sponsored by Balvenie. So, and the reason I chose this one is because it looks like it's sort of moonshine because the label fell off. But I quite like, I'm drinking something that kind of could be anything, but it's a Balvenie double wood 17-year-old special thing. It's just really nice. But I'm toying with. I really, really want to bring this one out, and this is uncorked.
Ooh.
And that's a Sassenach by my old mate Sam Hewen of Outlander, and he gave me this bottle when we launched it, and I've never opened it. So let's see how this goes, because there aren't many of these around.
I've never seen that bottle, and I've seen quite a few bottles out there. So no,
so this is the Sassenach by the actor Sam Hewen.
Okay.
And at the last Burns night, we launched this for him.
Nice.
And so it's got his little signature on the back here somewhere. And he is the housewife's favorite. So I'm just trying to buy some love. But let's see if this one goes with us as well. I've got a couple other bottles here just in case.
Excellent. Well, we've got a lot. I'm sure you have tons. I'm double fisting with two. So we had our Burns night. We had 2 Burns drams to start the evening. They're both Aaron's. So that's Aaron. This is the blend. Not very good, but so I'm not having that tonight. And there's the single malt Aaron. And what we also have, we did this that night. It was a private cask, and we have a store here called Kingston Wine Market, and they do very well with their private casks. So they buy private casks, and this is fantastic. And it's only 11 years old, but it's cask strength, single barrel. It's all the things I love so much about whiskey. So that's what I have in my hands tonight.
That's a pretty good way to start. I mean, that looks like a good night in, and it looks like one of those bottles already been given a pretty good walloping already.
Oh, yes. Well, this was in our tasting that night. So it survived a Robbie Burns night, and there's just a little bit left, but that's okay.
Am I allowed to ask how many people were at it? I mean, was that 2 people, 5 people, 20 people?
That was 24 people, I think, at our Robbie Burns, and this was all online because we didn't do it in person.
Yeah.
Next year we're in person.
Good.
Well, that's the plan. I already have the venue planned, but I've gotten a lot of information from your book, which is going to modify it a little bit. And what happens tonight's going to modify it as well. And yeah, well, let's just leave it at that because we have a lot to say. But I want to know about you, kind sir. So it's a quick introduction. Robbie Burns, just a year away. But if you want to plan your first in-person Robbie Burns evening celebration, or the first one after COVID, this is the book you need to get because there's tons of information and it's an easy read. You're going to get through this in an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours, and you see everything you need in here. But we've got some questions for you, Kat.
I mean, listen, and I hope I have the answers, or we're already snookered. But
it doesn't matter. We'll just keep breaking more.
And I'll do my damnedest to answer it in the most generous ways possible, because actually your first point, it takes about an hour to read. It probably took about an hour and a half to write. Actually, no, it didn't. What I actually always said, it was an 8 beer book.
Okay.
Because I wrote it over 2 days, and I like to write drunk and edit sober. So I had just 4 beers, write, edit the next day, then write. It's deliberately a light book. It's not an academic book. It's if Burns was alive today and he wanted to throw a party, just give me the basics.
Yes.
I think sometimes we go into these scholarly deep dives into academia.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not that. I don't want to be that. And I think a lot of people who go to a Burns night just want a party. So make it light and simple. I'm possibly going to be your lightest guest, give or take my ever increasing waistline.
Oh, we've had some very lighthearted guests and guests that are all over the map. So you're going to fit right in no matter what you do.
You're a kind man to make me feel so welcome.
But this question, you can definitely answer. So I just need a little bit of background because on the back of the book and Amazon, we don't get a lot of information. So it just says, Amazon tells us that you're a publicist, brand consultant specialized in the areas of entertainment media. You're born in Edinburgh. That you ran off to the circus at the age of 17. You've been lucky enough to live and travel as a proud Scots Italian. So I need some clarification on the circus and the Scots Italian. And then I'm going to ask you about some personal stuff. What are you doing now and what got you to this place?
Oh, my, where do you want me to start? I mean, it's that's a
circus.
That's a great
circus. Let's go circus.
Juggling. Juggler, fire breather. I'd started to juggle age about 14 or 15, and then practice quite a lot. And I was okay. I wasn't that brilliant, but it became immediately clear that all my friends who were much better jugglers were far better suited to caravan life, running around misty, moisty Mingin, Scotland. And I just thought, I'm not going to do this. So I actually ended up running back from the circus very quickly and organized some of the biggest circus conventions in the world. I was better off in the admin world or making it happen and getting sponsorship. And that has a whiskey tie-in because the first British juggling and circus convention that we did, I think it was 96. We had it sponsored by a distillery and the world's best haggis manufacturer, McSween of Edinburgh. So that's, you can see what I did there is.
I do, but I want to hear about who was the whiskey company? Who was the distillery?
A place called Delphi, and it's an Delphi distillery that you will not. I don't even know if they're around anymore. I actually don't know.
They're independent bottlers. They're owned by Italian family, and they have a new distillery that's just been opened up, and I can show you a couple bottles online or afterline that's come out of them. Their single malts are coming out right now. So last year and this year, their first single malts. They're fantastic.
So I think they were on Strathclyde or something. They were sort of quite a lowland Scottish, and maybe it's the same one. Anyway, they sponsored us, and I got the best jugglers in the world. Actually, a guy called Jay Gilligan, who's currently in Vegas. He was 19 or 20 at the time, and he just juggled 3 bottles. And I was like, oh, don't drop him. And he bounced one in his nose and juggled. I'm like, oh, God, don't drop him. But Adelphi at that point, I haven't seen. They had a great blend. I don't know if they've still got it, but it was at the time it was about £13 a bottle, and it was delicious. It was a really, really good blend.
I do have a blend, and for us, it's $33, so probably $12 in the States with you. But
Exactly.
I'll show you that too.
You have that one. So that was quite interesting. I think he juggled haggis with a whiskey bottle in his nose, and that became clear that that was more of my calling, was to organize people in the juggling world rather than be a juggler.
Nice.
I was very happy to bring people together, which actually then, you have the best jugglers in the world with a whiskey on their nose and a haggis in their hand, got publicity. And I realized at that point, I really wanted to be into public relations and publicity. And just by doing the job, I ended up looking after McSween of Edinburgh, the best haggis maker in the world to this day. And they had quite difficult things to do. It was a time of BSE in Britain. So it was a bit of crisis management, a bit of promotion. But I got a portfolio of work together and then went to interview for jobs in London and moved to London in the late 90s and lived in cool Britannia, being a young-ish Scotsman in London. It was bloody wild.
Yes. Oh,
wild.
I'm envious. Okay. And from that point, what do you do right now? How do you spend the majority of your time?
Well, I mean, I think I am a publicist, a PR person. So a PR person for people is a publicist.
Yep.
And I've been extremely lucky and also worked extraordinarily hard to look after some of the biggest names in the world in film and theatre and television.
Nice.
Actors, actors, writers, directors, producers. And kind of the obvious home, although it came as a bit of a surprise to me, is Los Angeles. You can be, if you're a publicist, you live in LA. And it's easy to have clients in London or anywhere in the world. They just say, call my publicist in LA. It's that line just trips off people's tongue. And they don't mind if you're not in London or domiciled in Paris or wherever the client is. It's just my publicist in LA is the kind of, it works. So
is that how the Scots Italian comes out when we say a proud Scots Italian?
I mean, my mother's Italian, although born in Scotland. Both my parents were Italian. I'm lucky to get both, and I think they match okay because there's passion and fire and a little bit of family and a little bit of we're not tall. We're not tall, so it's pretty good. And I think the fish and chip shops and the pizza shops and the cafes of Edinburgh and Glasgow and all those areas, I think Scottish Italian's quite. It's actually a mix that's probably more prevalent than you would believe, but unique enough to still mention it. And also, my mother is very proudly Italian, so and I carry the passport. So
nice. Okay, and
weird.
As you should be proud Italian. Yeah. And I was going to say with the haggis, you mentioned in the book, it's fantastic. Here in Canada, we do have butchers in different corners of our country that still make a fantastic haggis. They do some really good work. And I was going to have a haggis on today, and I was actually going to do something different. I was going to smoke the haggis, just see what that would have been like, because I've got the hickory smoke, and I was just going to see what that would have been like. And just,
I would say with that, as long as it gets to temperature, it's a reheating process, not a cooking process.
Right.
So, I think you'd have been fine. I think that would be really interesting. I mean, I'm sure it's been done, but I would say go for it and just check your temperature and you'll be fine. And then, I think that sounds delicious. You're actually kind of making me very hungry and rather envious because, of course, in America, we're not really allowed haggis. And there's one manufacturer on the East Coast who's actually really good. I mean, a really good product. But, any time I've ever been up in Alberta and up into Vancouver and up to Calgary and all those areas, you get potato scones and you get, white puddings and you get, I'm like, oh, Jesus, I would absolutely die for a white pudding right now.
Oh, okay. Well, you can come home anytime you want. Come on home. There was a large scale Scot and Irish influx into the States. Where did the majority go? Were they big cities? I think they were big cities at first, but I'm wondering if there was a large community in one area specifically, because throughout Canada, it's everywhere. Everywhere that there was a farm, there was likely to be Scots-Irish.
Yeah, I think it's the obvious place. I think they went to the pub. I think it's just much like when you're in London, they don't often, a lot of Scottish people don't go past King's Cross, including myself when I live there.
That's it.
Because that's where the train station comes out, and that's where you are, wherever you lay your pint. So I think there aren't that many. I mean, I've not come across that many Scottish people here in LA.
Nope.
It's just the obvious ones, the ones that you probably watch on television and watch on your screens. I mean, Ewan McGregor's here, Jerry Butler's here normally, Ross King's here, Tony Curran's here, and Sam Hewen's not here often enough, in my opinion, but he'll hopefully be more. Shirley Manson from Garbage is here, but beyond that, I could probably think about another 5 or 10 more. But again, they're all here because of the industry, not because of LA, if that makes sense. I mean, more on the East Coast, obviously. But again, I think a lot of people still identify as Scottish. And I think the heritage list, I mean, people say, "Oh, what clan are you?" And I'm like, I don't know. We don't talk about that. That's not in my lowland vocabulary at all. I don't know.
No, I get it. Well, I'm Irish. My wife is Scottish, but she identifies with the clan. So it's Clan MacDonald for her. Her name was Curry, and the Currys were linked to the MacDonald. We've got the tartan within the house.
Great.
But there's the Highland Games that we go to in the summer. There's still an element, something that we find really special. I find the whiskey and the Scotch really special myself. So President of the Alberta Scotch Society, that's what I'm doing. I just noticed that I still had my little banner up, so sorry. Get rid of this. It's not that
but it's I mean, you are what you identify as. And an Irishman is a Scotsman who can swim, so you've done well. And it's okay. It's okay. And it's maybe a bit of a lighter approach. If someone wants to feel Scottish, be Scottish, and identify as that, I'm not just being flippant about that, but if you connect to Scotland and what it's about, and kind of honor it a little bit in the same way as I try to honor it, and it's okay. It's okay to say my great whatever was part of this, that, and the other. It's fine. It's okay, and it's good for Scotland. I mean, we're a small place.
It's just fun. It's really just a lot of fun, and the Highland Games just an excuse for me to do another tasting and have a lot of Scotch, and entirely too much. I'm going to delve into the questions with the book. So you say this book, it's a wee guide. This wee guidebook is here to help you create your own celebration. That one right there. Yeah. So it's in it. I'm summarizing, but it's fun bringing together people, and it's a celebration with an honest excuse and a legitimate reason to honor a much-loved poet and visionary. So I do have a larger quote. So let's get this quote up there, and I'll read that for you. So we say, how many celebrations of any type can bring a personal feeling of great warmth, individual and international identity and pride, have no limits as to location, size, scale, and cost, have no direct religious connotations and restrictions, and is even flexible about date. So is this the crux as to why people love to celebrate this day? Because it's everything to everybody?
And I hope it is. And thank you for extracting that. That's really nice. I hope it is. I do believe, again, if the history academics are right, that the very first Burns Night was held on the wrong date. And his mates got together and then they realized they had the wrong date. So from that point on, for example, we in LA, I host a big Burns supper here. And with COVID, we just thought it's not worth the bother. But I honestly, if we get things together in the next 2 or 3 months, we'll do it. And if it's May or June, I don't care. Because it's, we could do St. Andrew's Day, 30th November. We could do the 1st of May and pretend it's a sort of day of Beltane. We could do, it doesn't matter. I think that again, they're just getting people together and that personal feeling of great warmth, individual and international identity and pride. Just do it. And if it's just 4 of you, 6 of you, 8 of you, 10 of you, or 200 people with a purpose, and you honor some of it, it's okay. I actually love the idea of it being at the end of January because,
it's a long month.
About it, Scotland's miserable. It's bloody miserable. And January, it's grey and damp, and you've had a month after Christmas, you got no money, and it's kind of shit. And so you have a party, and it's a nice piece of punctuation that punctuation mark for me can go anywhere in the year. And I would urge people to have brunch suppers whenever they want.
Excellent. I like that a lot. I try to get mine very close to the date. Like I said, we did online this year. Next year's not. So next year it's about 200 people that we do. And when we have our large gatherings, it's 100, 150, 200. This will be a bigger one just because I think people really want an excuse to get out there and want to have that. So that'll be the plan. How big are yours in LA? The one when you put them on there?
And I've been really lucky. It's something I'd always host them for. There's an organization, a membership club called Soho House in London, and I'd always done it for them around in a number of locations. But then they weren't big enough, so I had the chance to team up with my old buddy Ross King, who's a TV presenter and actor and author and all-round wonderful human being, and the CEO of the British Academy of Film and Television in LA, Chantal Rickards. And we put a Burns Night together in aid of BAFTA. They are a charity, and we just thought it was quite good to raise some money and, give them some scholarships so kids in LA could, and kids in Scotland could come to LA. And we sort of capped it at around about 100 people.
Okay.
So there was an intimacy, a little bit of demand to get the ticket. And with it being LA, we've been very lucky that the last one, Sam Hewen was there, and Jerry Butler was there, and I see Tony Curran was there, and Lulu, got up and gave us a number, and we just had a great time, and again, not that formal, and we tried to sort of keep it quite loose. And if we felt like doing all the poems we did, and if it didn't feel right in the flow, we didn't either. And I think I'm certainly against all the sort of rigidity of stuff. Just have a good party. I know it's a weird projection, but just what would Robert Burns have wanted? He would have wanted a good night out with a lot of beautiful women, a big celebration, and to kiss someone new.
That's it. It's not asking for much. It's
no. I mean, if you can't do that in a kilt,
there's a problem. You're not putting yourself out there enough.
Exactly, and it's just nice to pull people along and as I say, the non-religious bit is kind of important. Once you get past the Selkirk Grace, you're coasting, and it's the only kind of religious entity in the whole piece, and it's a beautiful grace.
It is. It's not very religious as a grace. It's not. It's more tongue-in-cheek and fun than anything else. So it's perfect.
And it's. I think he would have had fun. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I can only project into my own opinion or fantasy or idea of who Robert Burns was, but just enjoy it, and just go for it. Whatever you can celebrate, just do it.
Well, let's go back to yours. So give us a bit of insight to your introduction into this evening of fun, frivolity, and hopefully a bit of debauchery in there. How old were you? And was it a family event or was it a friend event? And do you remember who organized it? Anything like that?
Yeah. I mean, with those things, I think I must have got something a little bit at school. But since the 1970s, Scottish education was barely evident anywhere. I'm still learning English, I think. It was probably at home, and Mum and Dad would just get haggis, and off we would go. Dad's not a whiskey drinker, but we just do it at home, and you'd learn a little bit about it, and you'd stumble your way through the poems, much like I do today, and try to understand them, and do a little bit backwards and forwards of what is it, and they're just nice. It's just that connection. And then in later life, I remember I'd moved to London in '97, and I'd moved in October. And I thought, well, then, my first sort of London hoorah. I thought, let's just invite all my London mates to come to my house. And it was an absolute, as we say in Scotland, an absolute stooshy. I mean, so many people turned up, and it was a complete shambles. I think there was haggis somewhere in the room, but I think it was more to do with just bottles of whiskey and just, again, beautiful people partying. But it brought people together. And it sort of set the tone that we should have a party. And I'd flown the haggis in, and all those nice things. And it's it just allows you, it just gives you an excuse. It's just an excuse to have a hearty night out.
Well, you say it should be relaxed and fun. You also say in the book that if you want it to be a black tie event, make it a black tie event.
Oh.
A few friends, a lot of friends, and I believe no matter what the intent, it should always be. I don't know if it should always relaxed, but I think it should be relaxed in all. So
Sure.
Let's go back to your favorite Robbie Burns Day that you've attended and hosted. And I wonder if there's a difference, because some that I've hosted where I'm not drinking as much, I see a lot more that's going on, and I found them to be very fun. And the other, when you're drinking a lot, it's generally fun anyways. So can you think of those?
Sure.
Favorite that you, yeah.
Sure. And that's again a lovely question there, because it's, I probably hosted more than I've ever been to, and the sort of formal ones, I've kind of kept away from. Although I was at a Scottish government event in Chicago, and it was great, but it was very formal. People all in their tweeds and their kilts and it was a nice night, and the haggis was good, and that was kind of fun. But it was exactly the opposite that I wanted to do. So it's, I mean, the ones in Soho House in Old Greek Street in London back in the day were, I mean, it was just a distillery with wheels. I mean, it just went down the hill and just kept on going. And and they were people. I mean, I've always, being a publicist and working in the entertainment industry, some kind of well-known names have popped up, and I've been very lucky to host them. And I remember sort of, I think I can say this, when Boy George gatecrashed my small dinner in Soho House. That was kind of funny. It was like, what's all this about? But actually, I think that was the night Eddie Reader, the beautiful Scottish singer-songwriter, turned up with her guitar, and she just turned up. And she'd heard it was on, and she was a friend of a friend, and she came and just gave a, I mean, actually, it's really worth looking up Eddie Reader on YouTube. She's one of the leading knowledges of his singing and lyrics, and she's just so generously arrived. I mean, we couldn't have afforded to bring her to the event. She just showed up, and I think and that to me sort of encompassed the real moment of what it's about. It's just people getting together, and a few relationships were both created and broken, in some of the Burns suppers, and it's that lovely thing where, oh God, I remember Minor Royals turning up, and that was all a bit silly, and ending up kissing a well-known TV presenter in the corner, and oh my God, I mean, it's. But I mean, as I say, it's what Robbie Burns would have wanted. It's fine.
All right. So I was going to ask, did you want ordered or loose and spontaneous? And I got my answer. It's loose and spontaneous.
Well, I think so. I mean, I think it's, again, it puts quite a pressure. I mean, I think obviously the immortal memory speech, I've written a few and really gone to great lengths to be quite formal about it. And it takes 2 or 3 days to write them and try to be relevant and try to be what it means to you and what it all means. But again, I just think the way sort of my character runs, I would rather do it a few drams in and just see what it feels like, and talk about a topic, whatever the topic is, whatever is the topic of the week, the day, the month, the year.
Okay.
And I could probably, if I drank a few more of these, give you a speech on what COVID and what the current state of Black Lives Matter, or what the state of war in the Ukraine would mean to Robert Burns and its relevance. I could probably do it, because you can always tie something back to one of his quotes, and if not, a man's a man and all that, and you've got everything covered.
And all that. Okay. Have you memorized most of the poems that you use at Robbie Burns Nights? Because I can't. I've tried.
Good God, no.
I can't. None.
No.
The Selkirk Grace, sure. But
there we go.
But
yeah,
you're 6 lines or something.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. No, it's and it is beautiful when people can do that. And when you see someone who's really studied the text and gets all the pronunciations right. Because again, although it's only sort of 50 or 60 miles probably between Edinburgh and Ayrshire, the accent's different. The words are different. Irvine Welsh's Train Spotting book was only written for about 100,000 people at Leith who would have understood all of his words. In the same way, Robert Burns's words were, very
Okay.
Very Ayrshire.
I was going to ask you if you've read the book, because I tried and I can't do it. I can't. I really, really tried. But
you see, for me, it was simple because it's from the bit of Edinburgh that I know well, and having gone to a trash
so you could
school.
picture the accent. Did you have to read it out loud though to be able to understand it, or could you just?
A few of them I had to say phonetically, and I actually would sit down. There was a couple. I read it. I think it was a first edition book that I read, and a few of them I went to Dad and went, "What's that?" And he went, "Speak it out loud." And I was like, "Oh, of course." And I think the same is true of Burns, and obviously it's historical language. But I think when it's done well, I've obviously seen Address to Haggis done, and I really recommend only doing 4 or 5 of the verses, but or you're there all night and you get hungry. And it's beautiful when it's done well, and it's kind of horrible when it's done badly, which I have done. I can honestly say I've done it very badly a few times. But in America, don't tell anyone this, but if you get it wrong, nobody knows.
Canada either. No. Well, no, there's some that know that I've done it wrong, but they're too nice to heckle me is the thing. So
yeah. A certain young male actor who did the address one year just kept going round and round because he was drunk, and in a weird way, I'm okay with that too, and that's kind of great. You just think, are you having fun? Yeah. Does anyone know? And when he came off stage, he went, I'm mortified. I went, why? You, me, and 4 other people out of the 100 knew you'd gone in that direction. No one else did.
Yeah. Look at them out there. They're having a great time. It's all good. Yeah. You warm them up for whatever it is. It's good.
Yeah. And that's what I mean about the looseness. I'm very glad. I'm very glad people do formal Burns suppers. I think that's a great thing to do and keep it on the rails. But I think with a lot of history, update it. If you're not updating stuff and keeping relevant and having momentum towards modernity, well then why are we living in the past? Why live to a book from 2,000 years ago or a book from 300 years ago? Right. Just live today's life in the ways that seem appropriate.
Okay. And I'm going to tell you my most unique Robbie Burns Night was, and you wouldn't expect it, the Faculty of Science at the university here in Edmonton, or University of Alberta. So Faculty of Science put this on. And it started off like a traditional Robbie Burns evening, but then there was a stoppage, and it was a master class on how they could tell through whatever, I don't know, with a mass spectrometer how old the whiskey was, and they could tell if one whiskey was if it was a fake or not. So it was fantastic because I learned so much, but it wasn't a Robbie Burns evening. It was the beginning of it and kind of the end of it, and we had scotch, which fantastic. But I learned a lot. So that was the most unique one I'd been at. But that was a bunch of scientists getting together that wanted reason to drink and see something interesting. How about you? Originality. Let's go for that. The most original, weird, odd.
One of the weirdest moments at one of the Burns suppers I arranged in London. A dear old mate of mine, an artist, although from the north of England, but he had taken to his life to rebuild a castle, fortified house.
Okay.
Up near in the Black Eye, up just outside Inverness, and he turned up in his tartan shoes and his finities. He must have been early 70s at the time, and he turned up with a bit of bridge, a bit of wood that was meant to be from the bridge, and it had been inscribed and next to Burns's house, and he turned up with sort of Burns memorabilia, and I'm like, where the heck? I mean, to this day, it was a great story, and he got up and he explained how he'd gotten his piece of wood and what it was, and it was labeled, and actually, I must ask his son where it is now, but it was a bit of the Tam O'Shanter, and it was that whole, it was mentioned in the poem. And this is a bit of the bridge that was mentioned in the poem, and I don't know, didn't get that verified, didn't get that
no.
But the story was good, and again, don't let the truth get in the way of a good story. And he stood up, and I've got a photograph of him holding it. He was a dear friend, and sadly died a couple of years later. And it's that moment I can look back fondly and really think of him, and he was keeping alive a tradition, a history, a story, and it had a bit of Burns memorability, and he just turned up with it. I'm like, that was a gift. But equally, the last Burns supper, the Scottish government flew in the Burns violin, and a player from the National Museum, with the National Museum, and a player. There's one player in the world who's allowed to play it, and he rocked up, and they flew them in, and then they played the fiddle, and it's. I'm quite proud of that photograph being next to the Burns.
That's good to know people.
Yeah,
that's really good to know people.
It's that kind of embarrassing thing where my Burns supper and the one I have with Ross and Chantal here in LA has kind of become important, and we beam it back to the UK on television. We go live, and I'm like, how did I get to this place where, I've got these quite famous people in the room, and then you go, I'm quite pleased with this. This is nice. It's how do you keep a tradition alive and change it and make it relevant and bring it into the modern day? And again, would Robert Burns have liked the party? Yes. That's all I go by. But have you been to Scotland for any Burns nights? Have you ever been in Scotland for a Burns night?
Scotland, yes, not Robbie Burns Night. So I've yet to experience that. I've been to one through Armed Forces nights, and they're very, very black tie events and very specific in what you're allowed to do and not allowed to do. And I liked doing that one time where it was so rigid, just to see what it would be like. But I don't know. It's not part of my very favorite memories of Robbie Burns Nights. And I've gone to, I don't know, 15, 20, something like that over the years. So it's fresh in my memory, so I could picture it. But I would like to go to, I don't know, maybe it's a castle, maybe it's something with a moat, something with the green pastures, although I don't know what it would feel like in January in Scotland, because I was there in December and it was raining and sideways raining. It was heavy, hard rain, and I didn't appreciate it.
Yeah,
I was only there for 4 days and it rained the whole time.
But
I have to go back.
Yeah, that is Scotland. And you're in that sort of weird part of the world. Please forgive me if that sounds wrong, but it's that dry snow. I'm like, sorry, what's dry snow? I don't understand that. I remember going to Calgary once and trying to get a snowball. Oh,
it just falls apart. Yep.
Well, that's not snow.
It's not normal. No, but that's what we have. Yeah.
And it comes back to that old thing of you've probably got your indigenous people probably have 10 different words for snow, and in Scotland you got 30 different words for drunk. So take from that what you will,
Perfect. And I'm going to go into Robbie Burns. Let's another quote. Hope you don't mind me quoting.
Quote away.
Here we go. Here's a quote. So Robbie Burns, often known as Robbie, is Scotland's best-loved writer-poet, earning him recognition as one of the most famous people in Scotland's cultural history. He was a pioneer of the Romantic movement, with lyrical poetry and songs loved throughout the world. Not only has he his own unique identity, he has, in so many ways, come to define Scotland. So my questions, and there's 3, so see what you want to answer. What makes Robbie Burns such a loved character? Is it because we're envious of him? Possibility 1. He's a man of the people. He was a farmer that we could aspire to be and go beyond. So as a man of the people, someone like I could have been and do something like he did. Maybe not have 8 illegitimate children, but something like that. And we're so accepting of his fallacies, like his womanizing. I don't have too many friends, I don't think, that do this type of thing and has 8 or 9 illegitimate children. I think you said he had a 9th on the way when he passed away in the book. Anyway, so what makes him such a loved character that we've continued this tradition, and Aaron puts his face on the label of their whiskey. What's your insight?
How drunk and how rude am I allowed to go at this time of the day?
Oh, you could be very much. I put a little thing that said you have to be 21 years of age. I'm a teacher, so I have to make sure my students don't watch me. You can do whatever you want.
Okay. So, I mean, I think it's myth. We're now in the mythical stage. And, and of course, we don't know. We don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's a bunch of scholars that have dedicated their whole life to sort of knowing. But great, good for them. Thrilled. But it's and that's their life mission. I mean, I think dying young. I think if you die under your 40s or it wasn't 27, he was at 37. And I think he achieved a lot. I think if you get to 37 and you have that number of kids and you have published and you have influenced the world and so many of his writings have obviously gone on in a way that he could never have conceived or perceived, whichever one you want. I mean, I think that the myth has built with his legacy rather than in his reality at the time. And although he was the toast of the town, once first scripts are published, I mean, I think he would love to be here now. I think he would love to see, when you walk into Central Park, he's the first statue in Central Park. I mean, that's ridiculous. I think he would have loved to know that Michael Jackson has an album unfinished of his work. I mean, I think that would have been tremendous to know that that's been carried through. I think, to think of people going Auld Lang Syne still being sung around the world on the last night of the year in Hogmanay, I think it'd be incredible. So it's and some of it has been perpetuated, and I guess I'm part of that myth machine. But it allows us to kind of say who we are and what we're about as Scottish people. Again, a man's a man for all that, and that level of equality, I actually think has defined Scotland in the last 300 years, where we always view ourselves as the underdog. Wherever we see injustice, we fight for whoever it is.
Good.
And we see equality in different ways. And I certainly don't identify as British now, but I think that's because of the myth that was created or was indeed correct, that he gives us that cultural barometer or history as we see fit, where we've used his words to our effect in the same way as people use religious writings from the Bible to back up their cause. I'm using a man's a man and that equality as people did to help the popular cause to end slavery in America. That's kind of cool. That's still kind of cool today. And it still has cultural mileage or kilometerage.
Mileage.
It works. It works. He was there at a romantic time when Scotland invented kind of everything. Scotland invented most of the good things in the world. And again, that enlightenment of knowledge and wisdom and opportunity, I think kind of started around that time. Well, we know historically it did start. And he was part of the romantic movement. It was romance. It's love. And with love and romance and equality, you can pretty much solve anything.
Okay.
He's
a man of many faces, and we all want to be like him and not be like him, but be like him at the same time.
But then, okay, that was the clean answer. The dirty answer is he obviously had a way with a woman.
Yes.
He was known to have a very big personality, if you know what I mean. And that's where you
literally and figuratively. Good.
Well, it's something, it is a Scottishism where you may refer to your Bobby as in your Robert, as in your Robert Burns, if you have a large appendage. And that's my rude comment over, and I'll keep it as clean as that, is your Bobby is, and it's obviously named after him because I think he had a certain talent. Again, put that in the scholarly books if you wish, but it's interesting, why is the word Bobby in reference to sexual prowess?
Yeah.
And maybe that's it. Academia, shout me down.
Shoot me down. Prove me wrong. Let's go back to a quick comment because I usually say this or ask this of my Scottish friends. You said you're certainly not British. I'm wondering where you would have voted on Brexit. I'm just wondering. Oh, no, my wife had a very strong opinion of this, and she wasn't very happy.
I can tell you where I voted on Brexit. I got on a plane and I voted. I went to vote. Yeah.
Oh, good for you.
Because as a Scottish person, you identify, or 75% or whatever the number was. I think it'd be a lot higher now. We would identify as European. We've always looked to France. We've always looked to our conquerors in Sweden. We've always looked further and beyond our beautiful but slightly miserable land. You kind of have to look outward, and then you look down, and very much down, and in all sense of the word. And you look down in England, and there's nothing to there's no vision to look for there. So Brexit was a very simple. There's only one country in the Great Britain, the United Kingdom, that wanted Brexit, and they got it.
Yeah. Okay. So, that's good. Thanks. I don't usually go political, but I just wanted to know. I heard the inkling of it. That's all. I wanted to push.
You can go as political as you want, because I mean, he was in politics. He was definitely toying with the French. He definitely again went to equality to the world. And I don't think he would have. I don't think Robert Burns would have been shy to politics. I think he would have seen the charlatan. I think he would have played to it.
I think you'd have to be an excise man to get into the government, right? To play that role. But I'd like to hear what he would say at the end of the day in his drams, in his cups, right?
Well, sure. I mean, I think he was meant to take up his position as an excise man in one of the islands in the Caribbean, and never went. It would have been interesting to see where he did stand on the political matters of the time and the day, and of course, in that point was slavery. It would have been interesting, but I think again, I don't think there's any doubt to that. I say, I'll if you want to go politics, we'll do it all along. And actually, let me talk about it just very quickly.
Do it. Yeah.
There's a reason in Glasgow. It was called Nelson Mandela Square. Whilst England still classified him as a terrorist, Scotland stood behind him as a great leader. And I think it was like 2 years after he got out, or 3 years after he got out, he came to Scotland to thank the people of Scotland. And it was one of his. It wasn't his first foreign trip. That would be far too romantic. But it was quite early in the. It was early that he came to Scotland and thanked them, because we were counterintuitive to the rest of the world. And I think that identity of unique cultural positioning, we would fight for the underdog, and he happened to be that person. So you can't avoid politics. I'll give you another one, just since we're talking and since this whiskey is great.
I'm just going back and forth, Daniel.
Keep going. You just keep going. And when Israel recently played Scotland in Glasgow, in big games like that, you're not allowed to have any political statements in the stadium. Everyone turned up with a Palestine flag because, okay, we're not allowed to do it. Even better, you're going to get. I mean, the worst thing. I guess it was FIFA or UEFA or whoever it was. Don't turn up with a political statement. Don't say that to a Scottish person.
I'll do it on purpose now.
Giving them away at the door. And it's don't tell a Scottish person not to do something. I mean, God, that's just that act of defiance. This is where I do wish I was more scholarly, could pull a line out of a poem and match up the sentiment. But I think just the identity from that Burns has been created around Burns helps us with that, and I think we've rallied behind the myth that is him.
Okay, he's a focusing point. He's something that can focus you as well. Okay, I'm good. I like that.
I think. But I mean, everyone has their own opinion, and mine's just about drinking and being with friends. I mean, look, we're here. We're here because of him, and this is very lovely, and it's great to have a chat with someone on the other side of the, up there and
thousands of kilometers away. Yes.
Aye, but that's really nice, and that even that unifying moment, that's great.
Well, I'm glad to be here. I'm glad that we're talking about Robbie Burns, and I'm glad we have a dram in front of us as well. But I'm gonna bring you back into the Robbie Burns evening. I'm gonna pull us back, because I still want tips. I'm looking for this, because I want to, over the years that I get to do the evenings here in Edmonton or in Alberta. One, two. I want to make them as memorable as possible. So I want tips, one suggestion you keep coming up with, no matter how loose it is, you say to prepare your guests. So it's a little bit counterintuitive to just let chips fly as they may, to prepare your guests. Tell them what they're going to do, but then let it happen. So is it possibly, I don't know, why is this possibly not the best for spontaneity? You want it to be, how do we say this? We want a framework, but we want it spontaneous, or do you want it less framework? Where are we on this balance between framework and spontaneity? How's that?
That's lovely. Much like anything in life, we should look at it as consent. It's something we should teach at a very young age, which I'm sure you do a great job of. But it's, would you like to come to the event? Yes. Okay. Would you like to speak? Yes or no? Because burdening someone with a task that they don't want to do, it ain't going to work. So so that preparation is more to do with, you're better having someone who wants to do it than someone who doesn't want to do it. I know that sounds super basic, but it's kind of true. And if someone wants to, someone's a vegetarian, and you say address the haggis, say to them to write another version that's vegetarian, or some he lentils and can eat. I don't know. But it's you adapt it but allow the person to bring their own character and allow them to be the best version of themselves with the things that they want to do. So that's the preparation. Do you want to do it? Do you have capacity to do it? And how does it feel? Because for years I'd written immortal memory speeches and spent my time on it, and then it just doesn't feel right on the night, so you don't do it. And that's sad that it maybe doesn't happen, but it doesn't affect the night so badly. If you don't do an address to the laddies, does the night collapse? No, it doesn't.
Okay.
So,
and that's one of my other questions. Do you follow the order? Can you move the order around? It's just so you're going to adapt to the situation. Whoever's there, whoever's drunken, wherever the ladies are, and whatever, you'll pull things together and have them do whatever they want to do. So I'm looking at it. Glenn Deverin, I love that.
I've actually finished all my Talisker and all my Lagavulin, and
no more Pete for you tonight. That's good.
I was really tempted. I'm just going to sidetrack for a second. A mate of mine, I did some work for someone. A mate of mine was in a bit of bother in public relations. You're in a bit of a crisis management situation.
Okay.
He's like, charge me. I'm like, I can't charge you. You're a mate. He said, no, you must charge me. So I sent him an invoice. And then not only did I send an invoice, which he paid next again day, he sent this. And I'm actually a bit scared of it. But he sent this.
That's very good.
Yeah, no, like really good. And I'm like, when did a whiskey bottle ever look like this? So
it's beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm kind of scared. I'm kind of scared to open this one. But
Glenlivet and Macallan, they do great jobs with the boxes and the presentation.
It's just great. I actually worked at Macallan, and I wish, again, these are the sort of the regrets in life. I wish I'd bought a bottle every year since I was 18 and just kept them all and actually made it a ritual that every year maybe 2 bottles, you buy one to store and you buy one to drink of every year, and you build up a nice little library, because you buy them at the time, 40 quid or 50 quid or whatever it would be. But you could have a beautiful collection and you drink one and then you sell the rest, and you'd actually self-finance, and probably you got to once you're 30 years in and you had 30 years of Macallan unopened.
That's a lot of money you're getting when you do that. So,
right?
Yes. What did you do at Macallan? Were you a young lad cleaning up, tasting, taking stuff off the side?
I was actually an architectural consultant, and we built a new building for them. So I remember going up there and helping to.
Their brand new building, that, I don't know, $60 million whatever building.
No, this was 1995.
Okay.
And it was a little office building with about 8 people in it.
Okay.
And going up to Craig Gallagher. it was lovely. It's a lovely distillery. It was a great visit. But no, not the new one. And that new building looks phenomenal.
It does.
Sorry, I've now forgot the question because I'm just rambling on.
Well, that's okay. That's what this is about. We're just asking questions, just enjoying a dram, talking about a book. How many jobs have you had? Because it seems every conversation it shifts a little bit to this other one. And it's very interesting. This is not a criticism in any way. I've been a teacher my whole life, and I envy people who have changed and been able to go with a different flow somewhere else.
What subject do you teach?
Math, French immersion math. So I teach math in French in Alberta, which is
wow.
It's different. Yeah.
I should introduce you to an ex-girlfriend who was a French mathematician. I've dated a lot of mathematicians. I don't know, what is it with you mathematicians? I don't know, what is it that you're...
We drink a lot, and I teach junior high, which forces you to drink a lot as well. I'm quite happy.
It's good. I mean, I think teaching, actually the responsibility of teaching is just such a huge responsibility. Not one I'm sure I could ever take on. But
it could be another one of your jobs. It could be the next one. You'd be fine.
I mean, I've given more lectures than I've ever received. So I've been very lucky. Having never studied is punchline to that. I've been in I've been a publicist in public relations since '97. So media, entertainment, corporate, and all those things is sort of. I've been there for a while. Arguably started.
You found your niche. You're in your niche. You know what you're doing. Okay.
Yeah, I actually as an architectural consultant before that, and you were just communicating with drawings, and now I communicate. Normally drunk, and normally very busy.
Words, ideas, and drunk. Good. That's good.
Yeah, actually, not as much these days. I think when you get to my giddy age, the booze doesn't feel so good.
Not the next day, no. But as you're drinking, it's usually better alcohol we get to drink now than we did when we were 22. So, although when you were 20, you're at Macallan, or 25 or 30 at Macallan, so that's still pretty good. That's pretty impressive.
No, and actually, in a weird way, in that time in 97, 98, 99, when Britain was going through its Cool Britannia and its kind of wildness, I remember being asked out for a lunch with Moet Chandon, and they always said, "Oh, there's no such thing as a free lunch, but this is it." and they started us off with Dom Perignon 90 rosé,
good,
and they wiggled us through to Dom Perignon normal 90. And then they put us onto 95 non-vintage. We're like, what's this non-vintage stuff? This is what? Why are you giving us this non? And then we worked it through to Chateau Talbot 82. It's ingrained in my brain, and the booze experience was just phenomenal back in the day. And I think I don't know if people still do those sort of things, but it feels like not that you can do it in teaching, but in media and public relations and entertainment. I mean, 2 bottles of wine at lunch or 3 bottles of wine in between 2 people at a lunch was kind of normal, at least once or twice a week.
Really? Okay. I miss my calling, I guess.
Yeah.
Was the 1960s where you're drinking and you have your drink in the desk and you're pulling it out. Mad Men type thing. I was kind of always.
Yeah, no, I definitely did have a bottle in the bottom drawer in the 90s in London. Yeah, and it was not something I'm overly proud of or nor embarrassed of, but the chairman would come in after a lunch and he would do an hour's work and go for a sleep for an hour, came back up, time for deadlines for newspapers to come, and he made sure everything was fine. And out for dinner. It was definitely it was very productive though in a weird way.
You were happy. Maybe that's it. You were just happy and you were productive in your happy state, and that works perfectly.
It's relationships. I think you don't really have a relationship with emails pinging in. Your email just ping, ping, ping every 5 minutes. Much better to go for a good lunch and have a nice time.
No, I agree, and I do like being in person a whole bunch more than on. This format's great for what it is, but there's no substitute for spending an evening with someone just enjoying their company.
Yeah, absolutely.
The ambiance, the smells, the sounds, everything that adds to it. I'm going to go back to Robbie Burns Night, and there's not an order to events. We like things loose, but we have a bit of a structure now.
Okay.
Let's talk about what we have to have. Is there anything we have to still call it a Robbie Burns evening? No matter how loose we get with the rules.
Yeah, I mean, actually, whiskey is probably one of them. I'd say whiskey, haggis, and one poem. That's your bare minimum.
Poem. One poem.
And actually,
so it doesn't even have to be the grace.
No, you can do a Burns night without haggis for sure. Of course you can, because not everyone can get it in the countries that they're in. So, I think if you were unable to do it with a haggis, you do it with just a really good bit of beef if you can get it, or you'd want something a bit gamey, maybe a bit of venison, or actually with a nice salmon. You can have a really nice. You can have a nice time with salmon, even as a nice scallop. Ooh. I think ideally you would have haggis, but you could do Burns. Alternative Burns is fine too. But Selkirk Grace, and one or two poems, you can do it.
Okay, so if we go with food and we go to the traditional food, kakaliki soup, haggis. I've had haggis burgers as well, an actual burger, and I thought that was phenomenal. Neeps and tatties, and sticky pudding or raspberry crannikin. So
crannikin. Yeah.
Crannikin. I can't do it. I'm trying. My French comes in there and starts to soften it all up. It doesn't work. But you also mention in the book, and I don't want to give too much of the book away. People can only buy their own damn copy of the book. They can buy the book. But you talk about bannocks and cheese as well as some other items, and you talk about wine sometimes. I'm just wondering, that's traditional. Yeah. What else is non-traditional? You said gamey, so a different type of game. So Canada, we can have elk, we can have bison. We have these things available to us. Venison, but you said scallops, so seafood works as well. There's nothing else that, if I wanted to do something really unique, I'm wondering what I would do. My wife said, whatever you want. It's like, okay.
But in a weird way, yes. And if it means something to you and there's something personal, it doesn't matter. Do what you want. I think I'm sorry if I do sound if I'm taking artistic license with it, but
no, that's my wife, not you. It's just her.
She'd be going, "Who's that fraudulent Scotsman you have on your computer today?"
No, she loves the accent. And she's been glowing the whole time you've been talking. It's fantastic.
Well, that's good. I like that. Nice.
That's good. It's the Robbie Burns effect, I think, already.
Well, I'll be up there sooner than you know.
Okay, good. So,
but
anything goes as long as it's meaningful in some way.
I think it's that. Who's to say that one person's tradition is anyone else's, or you can adopt it? And I know there's a sort of a current maneuver where you can't sort of adopt other people's cultures. Well, I think you can, with conversation and openness and communication and a
bit of reverence. You're not poking fun.
Right.
You're enjoying it. Yeah.
Give things a respect and yes, I understand that we don't need to do cultural appropriation, but also no, we should do cultural appropriation if it's entertaining, if it's poised, if it has context, if it has respect, and it has understanding. And that's back to you being a teacher. If you understand your process and you understand your thinking, and do it with respect and do it with listening, not just projection. And I don't encourage people just to go out and culturally appropriate without thought. What I'm saying is do it with deep thought. And so any food with thought, any other booze with thought, with a haggis, you want a big red. You don't want a pissy white. You want to do something that shows understanding. And that's what I'd say is you don't want to underwhelm the situation.
Well, let's go on to my favorite subject, the Scotch wise. So the president of the Alberta Scotch Society, what happens at our Robbie Burns evenings is Scotch takes center stage. It does. More than anything else, we stop and we talk more about the Scotch. But it's very difficult to plan a Robbie Burns evening with Scotch and try to be meaningful. It really is, because there's very little I can actually bring out. Like I said, I could bring out this, which is the single malt that Aaron does. I can bring that one, which is their blend. And really anything else for me doesn't. I'm guessing as to what he would have liked, or I'm trying to match it. And I'm wondering if you've done this in the past, because you've had enough experience. I'm hoping that you've matched where he's been married, where his job took him in Edinburgh with whiskeys. And I'm wondering if there's some type of matching that could happen there. If I could follow his life and follow the whiskeys. I wonder if you've done something like this yet.
Great question.
Right.
Answer is no, I haven't. Could you? Yes. But I think I have 2 or 3 views on whiskey. As I say, I don't consider myself a heavy whiskey drinker.
Okay.
Until COVID-19 hit. Is I would say, to me, whiskey, I say my dad doesn't drink it, but his family did, and family friends would, and they just drank the whiskey they liked. And if you like a Bell's blend and it's $20 a go, so be it. If that was your cooking whiskey, cook away. But if it was that's what my family friends. I would see family friends just bring a bottle to a party, and they would whack the bottle there and then. But it wasn't a good one, because that's what they liked. I mean, I think whiskey in a weird way is it's a bit more like a. Oh dear, I'm going to say something which I'm going to regret. It's a bit more like a perfume. Some you like and some you don't. And there's some I like. I mean, you can keep all your Speyside stuff and your lighter stuff, and to me that's like nail varnish remover. I'd much rather go at Lagavulin and Lefroy and Talisker, and just
throw out an old Bell's like that if you want.
Right.
Why not? Yeah.
Well, I would, for you, enjoy it. I would decline politely to that. Nice bottle.
Thank you.
But it's not to my flavor. It's just not to, and so pairing or selecting a bunch of whiskeys. Yep. I don't think you should select for other people. I think you should say, here's the range, try them all, and drink more of the one you like the most. Because what you like the most and what I like the most, 2 different things.
That's true.
They are. I can see that. Sure.
I mean, okay, but this raises the question, in the moment of your final drink, may it be many years henceforward, what, if you had to have one last dram, what would your last dram be?
I don't know. And I do have a lot of whiskey. I do. But I'm okay with the Speyside in certain situations, because I like a lively spirit. I love the deep heat that I get with the smoke and the peat. And Kilhoman's pretty well my favorite right now with the peat. But then Octomore brings in. I've got too many favorites. But my favorite whiskey of the past year and a half, and it's almost finished now, and only very, very special friends have had this. It was an Edredor, and it was called Fairy Flag, and there was a movie called Fairy Flag, and it was just a very heavily sherried whiskey. And they have something else that very close to it was the 4.1 Dark Arts. I like whiskeys that have a lot of meat and a lot of flavor, and they don't have to be terribly expensive. They don't have to be terribly old. The last 2 I suggested were, but I like something that lingers for a while. So that's why I like peat, because you open it and people can smell it upstairs in my house. My wife can smell that I'm having peat downstairs. So whiskey distilled on the moon. I want something done in space somehow, and I'll be out there. I don't know, something quite unique. But I'm not really into the gimmicks, the whiskeys that were brought around the world, where it's changed to different time zones. Although if I was in the space station, I would have my own I would have whiskey with me, I think, up there. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
They must have done that. They must have done that stunt at some point.
You'd think so. Have a mini barrel up there, because I have little barrels where you can experiment with. I think they should have. And if they haven't, maybe they could do it for me. There's the idea. And I want to have someone they come back.
Jeff Bezos.
Yeah, Bezos and Musk, I can ask him to do that for me. Bring it up, come back down, and we'll have a dram together.
No, those silly men. They barely puncture the earth. I mean, they're pathetic little men.
Just barely touching up there.
Oh, I mean, you do the maths, but it's and I don't. But they hardly. I mean, it's a nonsense. These minimalist pishadiled men who need to send a phallus into the lower stratosphere. I mean,
and they do look like a phallus too.
Oh, it's pathetic. I mean, what the human mind created 50 years ago, and slingshotting with a mathematician back again, when they didn't know how to do it, rather more impressive than what we It's pathetic. It's a show of immaturity between three men.
Okay.
I mean, as I say, it's got nothing to do with whiskey, but I think it's pathetic. Anyway, don't get me started.
Well, we just lost our sponsor, but that's okay.
Oh shit! The Elon Musk sponsor. Yeah.
No, didn't I tell you this? No. What will make something stand out in a traditional sense, in a traditional meal? If you're in a traditional meal, what are you looking for that will make it stand out? You've accepted it's going to be traditional. It's not going to be spontaneous and fun and a lot of debauchery. It's going to be traditional. What's something that's going to make that stand out?
I still think the haggis.
Okay. So
a good haggis. I mean, I've been to a couple of Burns suppers. Oh, there was one in LA that they brought in a Scottish butcher, allegedly, from LA to make a haggis. It was, I mean, inedible. I mean,
was it the flavor or was it the feel that was off?
Everything.
Everything. Okay.
And it was like, I mean, I wish they just said, no, we can't get haggis, let's do something else. Rather than this. It was quite a famous chef in LA, and it was just.
But he was shit. No. Yep.
Oh, it was.
Yeah, we'll lose that sponsor as well. That's
yeah. Cool. Well, listen, you'd be happy to lose that sponsor. I mean, to say it was dog food would have been generous. I mean, you wouldn't. It was terrible, and they thought they were getting the cool chef in to do. Oh, dear me! I mean, it was, awful, and that to me was a big disappointment. I mean, rather than dress something up as something else, again, they could have just done a nice. Even a really good hamburger would have been better than the dog food that we got sent.
I've got to say, one of my favorite haggis meals was that haggis burger.
Yeah.
And
Right.
I approached it with a little bit of trepidation, but it was phenomenal. It was very, very good. So
It's a nice. I mean, I obviously did a Burns supper here at home the other week there, and a bunch of friends had just, some had tasted it and some hadn't. They were like, "Oh, this is really good." I went, "No shit, it is. It's just it's a good meaty, hearty dish." I mean, I did have a good haggis here, but I better not say how I got it here and what I did. But just Google Sam Hewen in the Daily Record 2 weeks ago, and you'll find out exactly what happened. But
okay.
Oh dear, just don't tell the American authorities.
That is a deal. I won't tell them a thing. Your secret is safe with me. And
yeah, that's me blowing the green card. Then that's it. There's it gone.
No, they'll invite you back. They like it. Just bring more haggis. The thing is, people are scared of haggis. They are. You hear stories. People are just scared of the unknown. And unless you've had something that doesn't sound pleasant initially, and have the goombas to actually try it the first time. They don't. Every friend of mine that I've made have haggis, and it was for many people. It's like, you have to have it. You're in my home. You're drinking my scotch. You're going to have just a little bit of haggis on this little cracker. That's all I want. And no, very good. I love it. And then you polish it off. So
exactly. And if it's a good haggis, you're fine. I mean, at least with a haggis from Scotland, it's got it's got on the label what's in it. In America, the stuff you don't know what you're getting. Most of the food chain in America, you're eating something that it's not. I mean, it's
yeah. Well, if you're eating a hot dog, I don't think you should be questioning anything else out there.
No.
Really?
So it's one of those things that I think we can just agree to disagree on all those things if you need to. But haggis is good. I mean, it's it's the old thing. Obviously the haggis traces back to Sweden. and the Vikings obviously came over and they had the sacrificial lamb,
Yeah.
Dispatched with it. Got all the perishable bits. If you go into any Muslim country around Eid, that's what they do. You get the sheep, you dispatch with it. You go into the heart, the lungs, the liver, the kidneys. You chop them all up, and you barbecue them on the fire. I mean, and they're the heart, the lung, the liver. I mean, obviously haggis is mainly lung, but a good haggis. But there's the bits you eat.
Well, I feel bad that I didn't smoke my haggis now. I was really thinking about it, but family got in the way. My daughter came up from Calgary to Edmonton, so that was the focus of the day. Otherwise, it was a smoked haggis in front of you or with you. Maybe it would have been mean, so maybe it's probably a good idea that I didn't. Let's go. My last question.
Yes.
And then any conversation after that. So I always look to add to our yearly tasting schedule. Some other tasting I could do, another excuse to have a drink if you really need one. What can you tell me about St. Andrew's Day? Because you wrote an article, and here's the article right there. But I'm wondering if you could actually tell me about who he was, how I could tie drinking into St. Andrew's Day, because you said Robbie Burns just far superior to drink a dram in relation to that. Is there a specific scotch that we can deal with on, and does it have to be December 1st? Although I'm assuming I know the answer to this, but I'm asking.
I mean, I think it's. You probably learned that I'm actually not that formal. And so do I believe in a saint's day of anything? Absolutely not. But saint is already we're into the Abrahamic religion, which I deplore. So it's already quite confusing. But actually, there was something nice. I remember walking into Jerusalem and seeing a St. Andrew's flag flying.
Okay.
And thinking that was kind of amazing. Seeing the cross was pretty incredible. And for some reason, it actually affects me with a great power. But I mean, 30th of November, you can do what you want. And again, I don't think Scotland does enough of it. I mean, obviously, the Irish have won that game basically, and the commercialization of St. Patrick's has been phenomenal. But I mean, if you held a gun to my head and said when St. David's Day for England, I would no idea. Don't care. They don't care either. And I think St. Andrew's Day, it's not big for us. It's never really been on the calendar.
Okay.
I kind of wish it was, but again, you're only going to lose to St. Patrick. On St. Andrew's Day, I've had haggis on St. Andrew's Day. I might just note the day. I also remember it because a friend. It's one of my former clients' wife's birthdays. And also, it was the day.
You said that other countries celebrate that as well. So I'm trying to focus on it right now. I can't see it right off. Other countries focus on the St. Andrew's Day, or it's a part of their celebrations.
Well, I think Saints' Days have multiple locations, and it's different saints, different days, different countries, different celebrations, and I think. With saints, you have to look to the Abrahamic countries, and if you go into Spain and Italy, the Saints' Day of the village is really important.
Yes.
And they'll carry an effigy or whatever. They'll do whatever they think is appropriate. But and I think St. Andrews has fallen into that more than it has in St. Andrews, or you don't go out and have a round of golf that day. But again, again, St. Patrick wins every time. Whatever any other saint does, your Irish people got that one.
Okay. So
way beyond it.
And I do celebrate it, but it's not just as much as Robbie Burns Day. They're both on the calendar. Any calendar you open up, you're going to see both of them. So, although I don't think I've seen December 1st on my calendar for St. Andrew's Day.
Am I getting too drunk here? Is it November 30th? Come on, it's November 30th.
I think it's December 1st.
Oh,
I think.
Come on.
I'm going to guess you know more than I. So I'm going to defer to you, and I'll say. No, my wife said you're right. She's fact checked me. The 30th of November. Everyone needs a fact checker in life. Wouldn't it be great if we all had that? No matter what we said, you could turn to someone and they fact check for you. It's good.
That'd be great.
Although you did that for me as well. But
I got lucky. I got lucky tonight.
No.
But it was a good guess. But it's yeah. I think Saints Days again. Yes, I have more problem with Saint. I would much prefer celebrate Burns Night than I would St Andrew's Day.
Okay.
I think the beatification of individuals becomes a bit ridiculous at some point.
Okay, so I should look for something else in December, which I usually do. I don't have a problem coming up with things. I just think it'd be neat if I had another Scottish thing, because we're the Scotch society, and although I do whiskey of every sort and every type, I try to focus on Scotch at least 3 or 4 times a year, and we do probably about 16 tastings a year, so that's kind of cool.
I mean, I think it wouldn't be hard to find the birthdays of, Alexander Graham Bell, Logie Baird, each one of them kind of deserve a note.
Their own celebration.
You could populate the calendar of Scottish events by the inventors that did stuff. Adam Smith. You could go around this easily at all.
Okay, so we should think about that more. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
I
think you could fill the year with, radar, insulin, penicillin, telephones,
and find whiskeys that have just an inkling of that title within it somehow. I was going to ask you, you're writing a second book, or I read that. You are? You're not?
I think I started to write a second book and sort of put it down. And actually a third book is probably, I think the third book will come out before the second.
Okay. Do you want to tell us anything about it?
Well, that's probably the fourth book. Actually, no. Okay, let's just be realistic for a moment. My publisher's asked me to rewrite this book. And he wants me to beef it up for next year. And I had one of the whiskey stockist in America said, "Can we just have 500 copies, please? And could you rewrite it and do it? Update it." So when I get some time between now and September, I'll update this one, and I'll actually really give it a much better go. I think I'll double it in size. And
when you say update it, beefier, what are you thinking you need to add to it?
A little bit more context, actually. I think it's light. I mean, it was a kind of an idiot's guide, or written by an idiot maybe. But
it was good. You know what? There's not enough books that are an hour and a half, 2 hour reads, and it's fantastic. I like this. It was the same amount of time you devote to a movie.
Yeah, I really believe in that. I really believe in short content. So actually, task number 1 is rewrite book number 1. Book number 2, my co-author and I, she was way ahead of the game. We were actually writing and guiding a book on modern feminism, the next way of modern feminism, about 8 years ago. And a lot of the things we were predicting then absolutely have relevance today. She and I credit her entirely. But our relationship went in slightly different directions. It was a good book, though. That was that. So that one, I think we could still have a nice. I still think there's a lot of relevance in the wave of modern feminism with and how that continues to evolve and adapt. Book number 3 will be under a different name, which will be again a slightly more self-helpy type thing on another topic that Robert Burns would have written about. And book number 4, at some point before I forget everything, which I've pretty much done, is I probably should write down what my last number of years have been like, and my experience that I've had, because I've had a very lucky time in Hollywood and all those things. Nice.
Excellent. You have a lot to do. You're busy already, and you're making yourself busier all the time. That's good.
Yeah. So basically, none of them will get done. But
you'll force yourself to take a holiday, and then you'll devote it to that, and then you won't have a holiday, but it'll be something different.
As I say, write drunk, edit sober.
Excellent. I think that's a fantastic idea that I might try.
It works.
It's not enough just interviewing everybody. I should start writing as well. Last thoughts, kind sir, before we close off our evening.
Well, actually, we got there halfway through the middle, which is we're very lucky. we're very lucky that you and I are here. I feel very thankful that you got in touch. And I feel very thankful that we can talk and we can spend an hour and a half together just having a nice time. And and we were brought together by a poet from Scotland from 1759. I mean, it's kind of weird. And I don't consider myself a big whiskey drinker, but here we are. And hopefully I didn't embarrass myself on the whiskey knowledge. And I know what I like and I know what I do. And I would urge anyone just to follow their hearts. And this is about community. And you have created community. You perpetuate community. It's all positive. It allows Burns and whiskey give us a jumping off point to discuss the things that unite us and not the things that divide us. So in a world where we talk far too much about division, let's talk about the things that are positive and unite us.
That's a fantastic sentiment and a great way to sign this off. Thank you very much. Nice.
Okay,
all right. So I'll do my little spiel because that's all the time we have. Whiskey brothers, whiskey sisters, whiskey friends. It's been a fantastic early evening. It's Daniel's still got a whole evening ahead of him. I'm rearing down just a little bit. Our thanks to our listeners who joined us today and the many more who join us in the future. I know not a whole bunch of people do the Whiskey Book Club right away, mostly later. Special thanks to you, Daniel. Looking forward to reading book number 2, 3, and 4 one day and hopefully come back on here and do this. We're going to take a couple weeks off. We're going to see you Saturday, March 12th, 5:00 p.m. for our guest in East, our 17th book. This one right here. It's called Bourbon Justice. So how whiskey law shaped America with author Brian F. Hara. So this is a heavier book. This is not, it's thin, but you get into the laws and you get into the background and how it's changed American culture. This is a little bit heftier. It takes a little bit longer to read that one. And I'm excited. You should be too. So final note, you don't want to miss anything. Click like, subscribe, all that stuff. Let's hold up a glass. And
cheers.
Here we go. Here's the good company. Here's the good whiskey. And here's the good conversation, which we had tonight, Daniel. Thank you very much.
Sláinte.